Your name is?
Bill Johnston,
And are you from Siren?
more or less.
So you weren't here the day of the tornado.
I was at Boy Scout Camp Phillips, and I heard on the radio in the morning that they wanted to know what happened in Siren. And being from Siren, I was quite concerned, so I drove over to Siren, and it was just mass destruction that day. And that was Tuesday. It was a beautiful day, too, sunny and bright.
How long did it take Siren to clean up the initial destruction? Just sort of the sweep.
Pretty much cleaned up before the end of the year. In fact, you could get through the streets within probably a week or so.
But how long did it take to get to clear up most of the apparent debris and things like that?
I think that took months, several months. Yeah. And the power was out for almost a week.
And there were a lot of volunteers here helping out.
Thousands, actually, at one time or another.
So is this day, this anniversary, also kind of to thank the volunteers? And
yes.
Yeah.
My name is Dr. John Bowman, and I was involved in the 2001 tornado, initially with the Red Cross. Worked with the Red Cross for a couple of weeks, providing emergency services and also mental health services to the people of the tornado. And then after that, I was assigned out to primarily Dewey and La Follette Townships through the Project Recovery, where I worked at for over a year, providing emotional support and mental health services for the people out in both Dewey and La Follette Townships.
And without naming names, what kind of issues did people deal with as far as
all kinds of issues,
stress?
All kinds of issues. But initially, what we needed to do was deal with issues of safety, security, and survival. Before you can do anything else, those basic needs had to be taken care of. And then after that, you can start working on some of the other emotional issues that came up. People had a variety of different things they had to deal with. But number one, there was a lot of people that had difficulty with just feeling safe once again. There were people that after this had time recovering in terms of having almost situations of some post-traumatic kinds of things, with initial kinds of things of being hyper-vigilant, looking at the sky, being very hypersensitive to the weather and conditions outside. Some people suffered some sleep disturbances for a while. But this was all normal reactions to an abnormal situation. So this is something we expected. And the majority of people went through the recovery, and here we are 10 years later, going back and visiting, revisiting, talking with these people, and finding out once again what's occurring is that they want to tell their stories, relive some of the events, but also share what's happened in their 10 years. And life has gone on, and that's the important thing. Their lives have gone on. Why isn't
it seems very cathartic and important for people to talk about their experience. Why is that?
It's very important because, number one, it's cathartic from one standpoint, I think, because, number one, you have all people that have been through a similar situation. They know what the people are sharing is something they can definitely identify with because they've experienced. Another thing, it's very helpful when we go through the process of reminiscing and talking about the experience and what happened. That's very therapeutic. This is the importance of why we have various kinds of support groups, and they're so successful, because it's a chance for people to come together that have all experienced similar situations, similar things in life, but can come together and talk about it, express it, and get it out, and this is all part of the healing process.
How do you think the community has changed here after going through this process?
I think it's changed, number
This
one.
disaster.
Well, number one, as we know in Siren, it's changed dramatically in terms of the physical structure.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Out in the rural areas, it's changed because now people have more of a sense of community. They also are more aware of their neighbors and kind of look out a little more for each other than they did previously. So it's kind of brought kind of a closeness. And it's brought about, you know, even last week after I had not seen some of these people for many of years, initially when I met them after so many years and see them again, there's this initial bonding. It comes together because we went through such a difficult, traumatic time. But I think it's made people to be more aware of each other and also maybe be a little more aware of safety kinds of things, watching the weather, being aware. People all have weather radios that were given to them during the storm, right after the storm. So I think it's kind of done this. More of an awareness and more of a closeness of community.
Well, the community actually extends beyond the county because there were a lot of volunteers who came to Siren. Put a lot of time here.
The volunteers were tremendous. I mean, volunteers came from everywhere, and not only in terms of the local people that volunteered, but from all over the country. We had volunteers come for various, from organizations, but also just individuals that saw this in the media and decided they wanted to come and help. The outpouring was tremendous, and one of the ones I have to thank so much where I worked was the tribe. The tribe was tremendous working out in Hurdle and in both Dewey and La Follette in those townships. The tribe just...
St. Croix tribe?
Yes, the St. Croix tribe. Wonderful. And Jay Emery, who was tribal chairman at the time, who I had a chance to work with, was instrumental in the tribe doing what they did, feeding volunteers, feeding the residents for months, involved in the rescue initially, but also through the whole recovery process. Did a wonderful job.
And it's amazing that there was only 3 people killed. I mean, any
Yes.
loss of life was terrible, but to gone through that destruction.
Exactly. Unfortunate we lost 3 lives, but it could have been a lot worse. It hit at 8:20 here in Siren, a little later, you know, down in La Follette and Dewey, but it didn't hit in the middle of the night. So I think we were fortunate that we only lost 3 people, but like you say, the loss of anyone is devastating.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Frank.
Barn in the shop, the house is back over here.
So what happened here? I mean, what was destroyed? And the roof came off?
Yeah, the roof came off, and it's a camper here, rolled upside down, and then the house back over here, I'll show you on this other picture, it's back over here.
Okay.
This is what's left of the house,
Oh,
and that's the barn you just looked at up there.
that's the barn. And that was your house. Were you in the house?
Yes.
Were you in the basement, or?
Well, I was on my way down the stairway when the roof went off the house.
Whoa. Are you kidding? Were you both there?
No, we were both there.
Could I get you to kind of just together and
Sure.
would you mind just introducing yourselves and your name is?
I am Don Israel, and this is my wife, Pat.
So you both experienced that June 18th, 2001 tornado,
Yes.
and you were from Dewey Township. Is that correct?
Dewey Township.
Can you talk to me about that night? What happened that night? Your
Well,
experience?
it was kind of surprise to us because we came home from Rice Lake and we saw this wall cloud moving towards our place. And I didn't see a funnel, didn't see anything. And so we got to the house and my grandson said there was a tornado on the way there. And it didn't look that bad, it looked like a rainstorm. And so the wind started blowing quite hard and shaking things, and so we headed down to the basement. And so she was already in the basement, my grandson was in the basement, and I was on my way down the stairway, and the roof came off the house. And none of us was injured.
What did that sound like when you're?
Well, what it sounded like to me when I was up in the kitchen before I went down the stairs, it would sound like if you got in a car or a truck and you held your foot on the accelerator and the engine just began to rev up till it blew away. That's what it sounded like to me. Yeah.
Do you still think about that day, or
Yes.
have you? Is there enough time, distance from it where you? It's a safe memory, or is it kind of still a scary memory?
Still bothers us, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was quite an ordeal.
It was. Yeah.
So,
And then afterwards was tough too. I mean, you had so many things to take care of.
right.
And we tried to salvage what we could in the house. And I had tarps out in the barn, and the tornado passed, and then there was a clear spot, and then I grabbed this stuff right after the tornado, and we had some furniture and one thing and another, and so we started covering furniture and one thing and another, and then it came a cold, hard rain and a hail, and we was pulling tarps over furniture and trying to save what we could, you know. And, but the house was completely destroyed.
Have you been able to rebuild since then, or?
Yes, there's a picture up here of the rebuilt house right here.
Oh, okay. That's your house rebuilt.
Yeah,
up there.
that's the house rebuilt.
Well, that's kind of part of the story too. 10 years later, I remember what Siren, the city of Siren, or the village of Siren, looked like after that tornado. It was just, it was just flattened basically, and to come back here 10 years later, it's a whole different community.
Yes.
The rebuilding part of this story is.
They've done a wonderful job
yeah.
here.
So you all are participating. You're going to be sunflowers. So you're holding the sunflowers.
Yeah,
You're going to be
we're
part of
gonna
that
be
world record
sunflowers.
attempt being sunflowers. Why is that significant? There's a reason why they pick sunflowers, right?
Well, that's the topic they picked, and
Yeah.
there's a story behind that. I'm not
Okay.
familiar with it, but
Well, they say that right after the tornado, the sunflowers came up right afterwards.
oh
It was-
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Bird seed, I think, probably.
Scattered over.
Everybody had bird seed out, and it just blew it everywhere.
Yeah.
And we didn't particularly notice that part of it. I guess we was too busy to
Yeah.
think about sunflowers. But
Well,
we had a lot of volunteer help. It was wonderful.
oh yeah, that was kind of inspiring. I came over here half a day, and there was just hundreds of people over here, and people who spent days, if not weeks, over here. And
Sure.
that was pretty incredible. Well, thank you for your story.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is Woodruff Township in Burnett County. This is where the tornado started. This is like a replica. The tornado went through. Land damaged 51,000 acres.
Ellie.
Daniels Township. So this is Siren.
I'm not going to be in a picture.
La Follette. 16 people injured. Contained tornado went eastward. 3 lives were lost. These are the individuals who died. Then it continued through Dewey Township. And it ended in Washburn County and Basha Township, approximately here. So this is a replica of the tornado's path 10 years ago. It's on the football field of the Siren High School.